Hey guys, welcome to this very special episode of Video Game Pickups, and this is the Christmas edition where we're just going to kind of go through my Christmas haul. But before getting into that, this has actually turned out to be a pretty good Christmas, as I actually woke up to a bit of snow this morning, and it's actually still snowing right now. And this is one of maybe 2 or 3 times in my entire life that I've ended up having a white Christmas, so that's really exciting. It's a nice little kernel of hope at the end of 2020. But anyways, let's just get right into things, and first up is a game that I've been toying with the idea of doing a full review on the channel, but I just don't think I can give one because of the language barrier, and that is none other than Ruin Arm. But wait a minute, this isn't Ruin Arm, this is Super Bikuti Man. So, there was I guess a mishap in shipping. I was sent the wrong game, but that's okay. I'm going to still talk about this as if it were Ruin Arm. Bikuti Man is a kind of a terrible fighting game. Maybe I'll talk about that sometime in the future. But Ruin Arm is a really cool action RPG game. It's kind of like if you took a little bit of Secret of Mana and Link to the Past with a dash of Donkey Kong Country. So the Secret of Mana and Link to the Past comparisons come from the fact that, you know, it's an action RPG. You're traveling from town to town and fighting monsters along the way and exploring caves and finding treasures. But the dash of Donkey Kong Country comes from the fact that you're constantly playing with a second player who will fight alongside you, and you can also use them to solve puzzles. You can pick them up and throw them to higher places. It's really, really interesting. And I didn't get far enough into the game to really get to utilize the second player a whole lot because of the language barrier. So, despite it being a really cool game, there are a couple of problems. There's like a 5-second load time in between pressing the start menu and for the menu to come up, which is where you'll be able to control the second player and some other stuff. But the big problem is the menus aren't translated at all, so I can't get I don't know how to get certain inventory items from my second player's inventory into mine, so I can't get past a certain part in the cave where I need this key that my second player has in their inventory to open a door. So I wish I could say more about Ruin Arm, as it is a really cool game that desperately needs a translation, but I can't really say much more until I can either figure that out or the game gets a translation. But there is a game fact on the game if you really want to try and make your way through it. So that is going to be it for Ruin Arm. Next up is a game that I've actually wanted to review for almost probably a year and a half at this point, and I actually have the review all finished. It has been in the works since 2019, and I just never got around to it. And that is none other than this action RPG, Crystal Beans from Dungeon Explorer. And this is kind of like the greatest hits collection of the 2 Dungeon Explorer games on the PC Engine. It kind of takes all of the best bosses, all of the best music, some of the best stages, and kind of rearranges them for the Super Nintendo. I would say that it is pretty much its own game. There's a bit of recycled stuff in there, but it's a lot of fun, and honestly it plays better and is a little easier than its PC Engine counterpart. So I highly recommend Crystal Beans from Dungeon Explorer over its PC Engine counterparts. And this review is done, and it'll come up at some point here in 2021, but I have a couple other games that I have to talk about before I get to this one. But we're going to continue on the trend of RPGs and talk about a little Sega Saturn game that I picked up, and it is none other than a side story in the Lunar series, Lunar Magic School. And for those of you, sorry about the glare. The glare coming off the screen. But Lunar Magic School, is a little side story RPG in the Lunar series. And the reason I got this is because this game is getting a fan translation. That was announced, I believe, last December, about a year ago now. And it's a game I found out about from an episode of GameSack years ago. I think Joe talked about it in one. I was like, hey, that looks really cool, and I never quite got around to getting a copy of it. But thankfully I was in no rush because it's maintained at a fairly cheap price because it's an RPG. Those don't tend to go up in price very often, especially imports. So I was glad to finally pick this game up, and what's neat is inside it came a couple of Lunar like trading cards, which is really cool. I didn't know these existed. Show you the back. I'm not going to open the package because it's not opened. but I thought that was really, really cool. I'm glad to have that. I am looking forward to at least trying to fumble my way a little bit through Lunar Magic School until the official translation finally comes out. And over here, I actually have a gigantic bag of games that I got in a lot. Now, I don't typically buy lots of off of eBay or Mercari because you usually get, maybe 4 or 5 good games and then the rest are kind of garbage. But this one actually did have a couple of games I was looking for and looking to add to my collection. I mean, maybe more than half of them. And I got a couple duplicates, which I have plans for in the future on the channel. So I picked it up, and just to for the sake of keeping this video short, and the fact that there's enough games in there for its own entire episode of Video Game Pickups, I'm only going to talk about a choice few over here that I have that were interesting enough to me. Now, the big one that made me want to buy this collection was none other than Gqo Proteus. I might have messed up the name, but it's Gqo Proteus, and I think it is the third and last game on the Proteus game on the Super Famicom. And this one's whole shtick is that they're announcers, kind of announcing and talking over what you're doing, which is interesting. I think this ends up translating to something like Talking Proteus. But it's one of the Proteus games. I need just one more to complete the Proteus trilogy on the Super Famicom, but this one's really fun, really wacky, of course. I look forward to playing more of this game. Next up is a game I want to talk about at some point on the channel, but not for the reasons most people would think, and that is Bahamut Lagoon. And Bahamut Lagoon is a strategy RPG that's kind of based around a bunch of dragon trainers that fight with their dragons and with their troops. It's interesting. It's a very cool game, but I don't know if it's quite for me. But I want to talk about it because it is one of the. It's a very cool strategy RPG. I'm hoping I get more into it the more I play it. But what I've played of it, it hasn't quite hooked me like I hoped it would. But I have a lot of positive things to say about it. The graphics are some of the best on the system. I mean, this was released in '96, the tail end of the Super Nintendo, so of course it looks absolutely gorgeous. The battles are kind of fun, but nothing's quite blown me away like most people seem to get when playing the game. I don't know, it hasn't quite clicked for me. But that is Bahamut Lagoon. Fun battles, gorgeous graphics, good music, but it just, oh no, one of my lights went out. Okay, but it just hasn't clicked with me. Anyways, and the last game I want to talk about is one in the Faria series, which is a series that never came stateside, of course, and it's from Hudson Soft. It's Faria 2. Now, these are both the games are, at this point, untranslated, even no fan translations for them, but they're cool little RPGs. I love the kind of, wacky art style they have. Come on, focus. I love the little wacky art style they have. And I love the graphics in the game. The overworld is gorgeous, Mode 7. Oh my god, every time I see it, I'm just like, damn, that looks so good. I'm such a sucker for the Mode 7. I love it. The battles are kind of fun, and I can't get very far in this game because it is entirely in Japanese, but it's interesting. It's very interesting, and I hope to play a bit more of this in the next few days or weeks. But yes, this and its predecessor really needed translation. And then that's gonna do it for video games, but real quick I guess I'll talk about a little bit about anime. Talk about some of the anime I got this year. Now, first up is Mobile Suit Gundam 0080 War in the Pocket. I'm not a huge Gundam fan. I love mech anime, but I haven't quite taken the dive into a lot of the Gundam anime. But War in the Pocket, being a very short 6-episode OVA, was one I watched a couple years ago and absolutely loved it. Very fun. Glad to have this on stunning Blu-ray. Next up is a slice of life, kind of similar to Ranma 1/2 and like a Meisani Koku, kind of like the stuff of Rumiko Takahashi, and that is Kimaguri Orange Road. And I got the entire series here on Blu-ray. I cannot wait to watch through all this. I've only really seen the first 12, 13 episodes, so I'm excited to see the rest of the series, and this one's quite a lot of fun, about this guy who kind of falls in love with this mysterious girl, but there's another girl at a school that likes him, so there's kind of this love triangle thing going on, much like a Ranma 1/2 kind of Rumiko Takahashi story. And the guy also happens to have some some like psychic powers. I don't know. His family's has like psychic powers, and it's interesting. And next up, for those of you that don't know, I'm actually quite a big Magical Girl fan. I like a lot of Magical Girl anime for some reason. I think it's the aesthetic. I really like the aesthetic and kind of the simplicity of it all. It's very whimsical. And I have the first, I guess I would consider it, season of Creamy Mommy, of Magical Angel Creamy Mommy. This is a fun little show, and I think it kind of beats the repetition of most Magical Girl shows. So like an episode of Sailor Moon, it's always kind of Monster of the Week. But in the case of Creamy Mommy, it's always kind of like a scenario of the week. So you get like a nice variety of things. But it's a fun show, and I actually also really like the music in the show. That was a big seller. The ending theme for the first half of the show is fantastic, and every time I watch an episode, the ending theme is stuck in my head for weeks on end. But anyways, that is going to wrap up my Christmas pickups. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and everything like that. Down below, tell me what you got for Christmas. I'm interested to find out. It's always fun to share what goodies and treats we've got under the tree this year. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.